Hello and welcome. I am Kalpana Singhal, Editor-in-Chief CXO TV and Tech Plus Media. And today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Piyush Chauhan, Group CIO, Lulu Group International, for this very interesting fireside chat. Mr. Chauhan is a digital evangelist with a passion for transforming businesses with the use of technology. With over 2 decades of experience working with global consumer and retail companies, he has an excellent track record of delivering results and creating value across organizations. Welcome, Mr. Chauhan.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, sir. I'm pleased to see you today.
Absolutely, same here.
You have over 2 decades of experience working with global consumer and retail companies. Please tell us about your journey so far.
Sure, and it has been an interesting journey, I would say, pretty satisfying as such. I have passion of transforming organizations, and in the beginning of my career, I started obviously deep in technology, in which we were trying to work with supply chain solutions with large organizations based in India, and then over a period of 2 decades, I've kind of worked with very large setups and led a large number of transformation programs, be it for companies like Tesco, which has been the longest part of my career, a great organization where we learned how a global organization and the best-in-class retail processes are performed. We led a much large transformation program out in Tesco. Then working with Target, working with Walmart, I've kind of gained experience as to how do you interact with the consumer, because retail is nothing but offering solutions in terms of experience and products to a consumer, and the consumer behavior has been changing over the past 2 decades. So I would kind of say that my early part of the journey was how do you enable technology to serve the consumer better. In the later part of in the last 5-7 years, what I've been seeing is how consumer is basically driving a lot of change in the retail ecosystem. So I would be kind of talking you through some of the aspects which I've learned along this journey, be it how powerful digital technologies have become. So for example, in the very early part of my career, we used to look at operational efficiency. We used to look at transforming the processes, bringing in changes so that we can actually save cost and do things better. That was predominantly technology was all about. In the last 10-15 years, what I'm seeing is technology is no longer an enabler of improvement of process, cost saving, and things like that. It is predominantly the way of doing business. Yeah. So the business have now transformed from being so-called physical business, which are powered by technology. They are now transforming into technology native businesses, and that is a big shift. And every organization have to bring digital at their core, have to bring in technology at their core, so that they are able to serve their consumers and customers better.
Absolutely, sir. So that brings me to the second question. Like last 24 months have dramatically changed the outlook of enterprises towards technology and technology leaders. How this added focus and responsibilities are making life challenging for technology leaders like you?
Yeah, and that is a very pertinent question in today's context, and I've been kind of speaking about it in multiple forums. One of the things which has happened is the pace of change. Yeah, so obviously technology transformation is all about change, right? You bring in new technology, you bring in new processes, you bring in new ways of working. So people process technology is what transformation was built on. And those transformations were happening on 3 to 5 year kind of time horizons in the past. So any organization pre-COVID would have kind of created a 5-year roadmap in which they would say, okay, I want to transform my omni-channel strategy and become a more omni-channel retailer. Yeah. What has happened as part of the last 24 years or predominantly around the COVID timelines is that this push or this transformation has become super fast. Yeah, organizations were moving towards agile. Now, what has happened as part of COVID is it is called hyperscale agile. Yeah, it is no longer simple agile in which you do things at a slightly faster pace, but you do it at a pace in which you have never done things in the past. Yeah, and this to me is a big shift, because what organizations did, and including our organization, and I know there are a lot of organizations like the Walmarts and the Tesco's of the world, what they have done is in the last 18 months is far higher than what they would have done in the last maybe 3-4 years. Yeah, which means that the pace of change is becoming super fast, and hence technology enablement through use of digital tools is becoming the core of the business proposition. So the organization itself is transforming into a much more kind of a digital native setup, in which we are now technology leaders are now trying to work with the board, trying to work with the executive committees of the enterprises, and then lead that change. Earlier they were kind of providing that change, but now is the time for the CIOs and the CIO organization, be it whatever you call it, CTO, CDO, doesn't matter, but we are expected now to transform that journey and make it towards a digital first transformation journey. And to me, that is a big change. So obviously you need to do things much faster. The second important thing is the upskilling of the enterprise and the organization. Now that is a very large and a long term, because one of the difficult things that happens is changing people is the most difficult thing. Yeah, you can change a lot of other things, but changing people is not very easy. So what is needed is for technology leaders to drive that change, and how do you make sure that your workforce becomes and is aided with a lot of digital tools. So be it collaboration tools, be it tools which are kind of helping them work across geographies, working them work from anywhere kind of a concept. So there are a lot of this enablement platforms which needs to be provided by technology leaders, so that you make a workforce which is super agile, which is super collaborative, and there is a huge penetration of digital tools within the setup which is out there. So bringing in and leading the transformation, leading the digital awareness and the digital workforce transformation within the enterprise, these are the two biggest change that I see, which technology leaders need to embrace, so that they are able to deliver to the digital transformation goals which every enterprise has part of its strategy.
Sure. So how are you managing with the change management in your organization?
Yeah, so and I think the earlier concepts of change management was around how do you kind of have a lot of training programs, and how do you kind of evolve as change agents. What has happened in the last 7-8 years is that the way of implementing change is also transformed. Yeah, and one of the important aspects around change management is about doing things small, measurable, and doing it fast. That is what change is all about. Yeah, earlier the change programs were very heavy. They were very bulky in nature, in which they would say, let us try to bring in agility as a concept, and they would run a 3-4 year transformation program. No longer the case. What you need to do is, now you need to create small, very closely monitored agile teams, and those agile teams are then able to work closely with the consumer or whichever process that you are trying to change, and they will be able to work with as a closed and a kind of a group which is delivering an output in a much faster pace. And this transformation from a large setup into multiple small agile teams is one of the ways of implementing these changes much faster. This is a new concept. Not everybody in the business understands and appreciates it, and hence you need to imbibe in sometimes new skills from outside, so that they are able to work on this very iterative manner, so that they are able to deliver this change much faster.
Yeah, absolutely. So retail as such underwent a dramatic transformation during the pandemic, with online and virtual video retail platforms becoming norm. How are you reinventing yourself for this big shift?
Yeah, if there was a choice, I would reinvent the whole thing. But obviously, when you are running a very large enterprise with 57,000 people and 215 stores, reinventing the whole thing may not be the possibility. So what you need to do is, you need to kind of, it's like a spaceship which is going at a much fast pace, and then in the state of motion you need to change its parts. Yeah, and then make sure that ship is running, and then you are able to still continue to do business, because you cannot leave a large business of 215 stores across with business across 12 countries and operations in about 22 countries. So that is a huge operation in itself. All you need to do is you need to carve out ideas, and obviously the ideas are around customer centricity, ideas around customer acquisition, ideas around customer intimacy and marketing. So those are ideas which are which needs to be brought in into our traditional business. Our traditional business was trying to create a footprint of retail across all the geographies that we cater to. We cater to about 500,000 customers every day in our physical stores, and the idea is to transform that into a pure omni-channel. We don't believe that we need to be a online only player, because online only player is a very different concept, and that requires a different business model. Our model is an omni-channel model, in which what we believe is that there is a large set of customer which comes to our store. How can we digitally enable interactions with the consumer so that the experience of the consumer becomes much more seamless? And that is what the journey that we are transforming into. We believe that omni-channel in the true form is still yet to evolve. Omni-channel as a concept was there, and then what we are trying to do is now that there is an online channel and there is a physical channel, and people are trying to merge that. Now that may or may not work in a lot of context. What we believe is that the true digital omni-channel kind of a behavior is to create a grounds up experience which is so seamless across these two channels, so that the customer can change between these two channels much more easily. And that to me is a big kind of a transformation that we are seeing. And when I speak to a lot of retail CIOs worldwide, everybody is trying to build a strategy around that, and that is the biggest game changer. So for example, we know that everybody is trying to remove friction from the customer interactions which is out there. One of the major things that customers don't like in a physical store is to stand in the checkout, yeah, and they don't want to wait in the queue, because once they have done all the shopping, they would want least amount of friction when they want to check out. That is the most important. And so there are technologies which are coming, in which there is in the US there are already hundreds of stores which are already made, which are so-called cashierless stores, and we believe that that technology in the physical context will be very big in the next 4 to 5 years. So most of the formats that we see today can be converted into a cashierless store. Now it is not about reducing the number of people, but it is to give a very great experience to the consumer. And to me, that is a very big game changer from a retail perspective. So there is a lot of these kind of technologies which are coming in, which are going to give a very different and a unique customer experience to our customers, which come and shop with us every day and believe in the brand Lulu.
Sure. So, there comes the frontier technologies. When we say, customer wanted to have a frictionless experience. So how are you leveraging new age technologies like automation, AI, IoT, and data analytics to enhance the productivity and efficiency of the workforce?
Yeah, and this is a very interesting question, and which is where people are kind of struggling with. And if you put technology in front of the business use case, I think most of the time technology fails. Yeah. So if you say that I'm doing an IoT project, and then I'm trying to put in a lot of sensors of let's say camera, video cameras, or any other sensing equipment which is out there, it is not going to give you the right value that you are trying to derive at. So I would urge all the technology leaders to look at the business use case first. What are you trying to solve? If you are trying to solve, how do you identify a customer? You need to identify which technology is suited for your organization, because there are multiple ways of doing it. Yeah, you can do it through video analytics, you can do it through some kind of a motion sensing technology, you can do it. There are multiple ways of solving that problem. And sometimes what happens is people try to put the technology and say that, okay, let me put a video analytics solution first and then see what comes out of that. For experiment, it makes sense, but don't make it a very large project without understanding what you're getting into. And so agile ways of working are about start small, start with an MVP, experiment, learn from it. Once you are able to learn from it, you are able to then deliver a big value to a consumer. So RPA as such in the last 5 years has been a buzzword, and people kind of went overboard in terms of using a lot of RPA tools. And now what people are realizing is that RPA is not about removing people and then asking bots to do what people were doing. That is what I know as non-intelligent automation. If you start doing that non-intelligent automation, you are not adding much value. All you are doing is you are removing people, which is not going to add too much value to the entire organization. What you need to look at is processes where there is not much of value. So, for example, still in large organizations, people kind of cull out a lot of reports. People do a lot of repetitive tasks. People do a lot of exchange of data over emails and stuff like that. All those are potential targets of elimination, not automation. Now, what people make a mistake is they try to say that, okay, somebody is doing it's a very boring task, let the bot do it. I don't think there is a huge amount of benefit that you can gain out of it, because employee costs are, so earlier people used to move to low cost economies like Philippines and or maybe sometime back in India and other places, and say that I can have a large team and one person can be kind of moved on to do some amount of repetitive tasks. Now the cost of people and the efficiency of the people are growing very fast, which means the productivity of people are going very fast because of this platforming, orientation of the process which are out there. So look at your automation journey with an intelligent mindset, because what we need to build in today's context is an intelligent enterprise, not an automated enterprise. Yeah, and there are subtle differences between these two. You need to make sure that your processes are intelligent enough. Once the processes are intelligent, then you can use a lot of AI, then you can use a lot of machine learning algorithms to learn from it. Using a non-intelligent automation which is doing a repetitive task will not add that value. And so sometimes these kind of journeys are kind of not understood well by the technology leaders, and they end up with technologies which are more or less kind of not yielding that much value to your enterprise.
Absolutely, sir. So you talk about putting up intelligent processes. Can you just share any of the case study, anything you executed recently when it comes to something like putting up an intelligent process in your organization?
Yeah, so I cannot say that I put an intelligent process. The way to do that is try to digitize. So there are 3 steps to building an intelligent organization. One is digitize each and every aspect, each and every transaction which is there in an organization, which is where I call it as a digitization journey. It's not digitalization. Yeah. So you start with a digitization journey in which you try to digitize each and every part of your organization. Any interactions, any collaborations, any sharing of data, any creation of data, you just digitize it. And what it does is when you digitize it, you get a lot of data out of it. Yeah. Use that data to learn from it. Once you use that data and learn from it, you will be able to get insights. You will be able to get ideas, which you then apply to create intelligent solutions. Now, intelligent solutions are not something that you have to buy and then put it into maybe in manufacturing and stuff like that, where there's a lot of industry 4.0 tools which are available readily, but not in a consumer setup, in which you cannot say that I can buy a solution and make the whole retail as an intelligent enterprise. So what you need to do is digitize the processes, digitize the enterprise, use data analytics as an intermediate layer to learn from it, gather insights from that. Once you've gathered insights from that, then you build intelligent solutions. So this is the journey of creating an intelligent enterprise. And I've done multiple ways by which we want to, let's say, create a personalization engine to personalize and target the consumers better. Now, I cannot just buy a personalization engine and say that I'm becoming an intelligent consumer enterprise. First I need to do is I need to understand the entire interactions of the consumers. So I will need to gather a lot of consumer data. Once I have that consumer data, I basically start using a lot of AI machine learning platforms and algorithms on it. And then I will build a kind of a purpose-built personalization engine, which can then reach out to my consumer. So this is how I see things changing, and we've kind of taken steps towards it. Some organizations can do it fast, some organizations can do it not very fast. It is absolutely fine, but it is important to have that thought process so that you're able to get value out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So data earlier was the new oil, and now it is no more the only new oil, it is the soil for any sector. Yeah. Okay. So what are the three big shifts you anticipate will happen in retail tech over the next 2 years, and how have you geared for these?
Okay. Okay. Now this is a kind of a forecasting or a crystal gazing event. There are, you said three things, right? So let me talk about the first thing. Obviously, one of the key and important aspect is around consumer behavior. Now, consumer behavior, if people think that we have understood the consumer and consumer is moving towards online, I think that is not rocket science to know. The consumer behavior is something which is constantly going to change in the days to come. Yeah. So what we saw pre-COVID, people are talking about online commerce. Yeah. Now we are seeing quick commerce as an activity which is booming very fast, in which the consumer is wanting anything between 10 to 20 minutes of ordering. Yeah. And that is called supersonic retailing. So to me, that change of the consumer behavior is a constant, and the consumer will not stop at 10 minutes. Okay. I'm pretty sure in the next 2 years the consumer will come and say, I want something more. Yeah. And then how can you constantly evolve and then keep on delivering something which is very unique to your consumer is something that needs to happen. So that is point number one. Second is the advancement in video technologies, the advancement in so-called IoT, and then merging of IoT with physical environments will create a very new dynamic in terms of consumer experience. And so I was talking about contactless stores, I was talking about kind of true omni-channel. So the next biggest thing which will happen is the kind of merger will become more true. Yeah, with the use of IoT and stuff like that, and you will see a lot of innovation which will come in the physical space. Now, the third aspect is online commerce. Yeah, we know that digital commerce will continue, but it is not going to replace the physical commerce. Yeah, digital commerce is still only 15% of the overall market in the US also. Yeah, in the most advanced economy in the world. And in other parts it is much lower than that. Yeah. So the penetration of online will increase, but offline will become much more penetrated and merged with online. Yeah, which means that there will be a lot of virtual AR VR kind of technology which will come in, which will make a real life experience. So for example, if you go to any e-commerce website today, they are more 2D in nature. Yeah, you will see everything in 2D. Yeah, what will happen is e-commerce will move on from being a 2D experience to a virtual and a more real life experience. So these are the three things. If I were to kind of crystal gaze and say that what will change, these are the three things which will change.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for the day when we will be able to, buy the fragrance online and we can smell it.
And that is called virtual reality. Absolutely.
Okay, so you have been talking about the customer experience throughout the conversation. Customer experience is the first ask in retail as an industry practitioner. What would you tell retail CIOs not to do? The big one, customer experience lesson as a takeaway.
What you should not do. I think what you should not do is again, what we have seen is, again, data and statistics shows that there are about 74% of digital transformation programs which are not seeing either value which everybody is working towards. Yeah, and one of the biggest reason why things are failing is we choose technology first and find the use case later. So never do that. Yeah, understand what the use case is and then try to find out the technology. What is happening is people are finding technology because there are so many thousands of vendors who will come and try to sell a use case to you. Don't buy the use case. Yeah, try to define a use case which is fit for your organization, which is fit for your need, which is fit for your consumer, and then try to put in the technology behind that. So putting the use case of your enterprise first, and then looking at technology is the right way of going forward.
Yeah, sure. So, lastly, if you can talk about your top technology focus areas and priorities over the next 2-3 years.
One of the biggest thing which I see is to create a data-driven organization. So I think the future organizations need to be digitized, data-driven, and then intelligent enabled. So that is the 3-step journey that I've always believed in. So our focus is, since we are transforming, obviously we own and run a large part of our business which is still physical. We were not a digital native organization, so digitization and then creating a data-driven decision-making enterprise is what our key focus is. And once we have achieved a large part of that, we'll be able to build a lot of intelligent solutions on top of it.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Chauhan, for sharing great insights and your journey so far with us. It was a complete pleasure interacting with you. And with this, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me. Wishing you all the best, and everyone all the best. Thank you so much.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.